Let me go ahead and share my screen here for a second.
Hello, everybody.
Does this go? Alrighty. Today is Tuesday, July 15th. This is week 15, class 2 of Hotel Evening and Weekend Platoon. Today we're going to cover nested objects with DRF. Yesterday we covered nested models, and actually before we hopped on to this call, Art asked a really good question. The crux of it just being, hey, we're not actually modifying our database at all, right? We're just organizing the way that we pull data, right? That is correct. To limit the number of API calls we make to our database, right? So you're actually just editing the views, right? Or the models, right? But the data is the same. Notice we didn't modify the data tables at all. Just modified the views. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Alrighty, so ultimately we structure data in an organized and hierarchical manner, right? For a multitude of different reasons, right? To reduce API calls, right? To improve permissions, um, to manage access to the resources, right? In a much simpler way. The example we gave yesterday is, imagine if you just had a bunch of data kind of in a database and you had a bunch of different groups of users. How would you make sure that certain users could only access some of the data? If it's not structured, that's impossible. You would ultimately end up with just one permission, right? Whether they have access to the database or not. And that's not very efficient at all. And the key in software engineering, kind of one of the golden rules, is following this principle of least privilege. So whatever user a person has, like whatever credentials they have, right, that should scope to the level of permissions that they're allowed to have in that specific application. They can't just have admin permissions, right? Because then they would, potentially do something nefarious or delete data that they're not supposed to. So things like that. So yesterday we covered nested models. Today we're going to cover something really, really similar, right? We're going to cover nested objects with DRF, and it's very similar. Instead of the models, we talk about objects. So let's jump into it. We're going to first talk about the create operation in DRF, and we're going to talk about something really important, overriding the serializer's create method and then implementing a view for create operation with nested objects. Overview. So we're going to be using the same Pokemon project, except we're going to use the branch nested views one, and this is the default one once you go in there. Remember, when you close it down, just go ahead and check out that specific branch because you're going to get main initially, but then you can do git checkout, nested views one, and then should pull it right down. All right, so on day 2, we'll focus on this create operation of CRUD in DRF. We'll learn how to override the serializer's create method to accommodate nested objects using the Pokemon application as an example. Okay, so an important thing here is that DRF does not, out of the box, DRF does not allow you to nest objects. That's why you're going to have to override its default behavior. Does that make sense? And that's where we're about to jump into. The basic library of DRF as it comes when you just download it doesn't have this functionality. So now we're going to add functionality to it. So that's what you're going to see here. So the create operation in DRF corresponds to just a post. And when dealing with nested objects, the create operation becomes a bit more complex. We not only have to create the parent object, in our case, a Pokemon. Remember yesterday we talked about Pokemon and their moves, that one-to-many relationship. But we also need to create the associated nested objects, the moves, and establish the correct relationship between them. So here we go. Overriding the serializer's create method. The default create method provides the DRF's model serializer with non-nested serializers, right? This right here should seem very familiar from yesterday. Pokemon app, you create a file called serializers. You have the class Pokemon serializer. And what do you notice here? This is what we covered yesterday. What's happening here? You're nesting what?
Nesting moves.
Yeah, right. And you're nesting models, right? Because the Pokemon has many moves, right? And you can tell that this is a nest, right? Because you import the move serializer into the Pokemon serializer. And notice moves, the last of the fields. So this is all what we learned yesterday, right?
Yep.
This is all what we learned yesterday. The only thing new is now we're going to override the create method of DRF. We're going to do def create self validated data, which is going to come in as a parameter, right? It looks like validated data is what kind of data type?
It's looks like a list.
Yeah, it looks to be a list. How do you know that?
Because you got the pop function at the end of it popping off the moves. That's one
Exactly.
that's one way.
Gotcha. So Python's a little funky because pop can either point to a list or a dictionary. For this indebted case, it doesn't really matter, but we know what's happening, whether this is a list or a dictionary, what's actually happening here. It's being removed, right?
Yep.
We're actually removing this key, this element from the data structure, and you're updating moves data, right? Is that what's happening? Okay. So here in this validated data, right, we actually changed the moves data. You've edited it. It's not the same as it when it came in, right? On this line, right? So here, it looks like you create a Pokemon object and then you iterate over moves data and you create move data and then you add the move. So what's happening here together?
So what you're essentially adding, you can add a move to the create it at the same. So yeah, you can add a move to the Pokemon at the same time that you can create a new Pokemon.
Yes, right? It says it right here. So you're effectively just changing a little bit of the functionality within the Pokemon serialized class, within this view, right? Makes sense? This is all dynamic. Notice how your database isn't changing at all, is it? It's just your views, your serializers, right? So this is exactly what Cisco was talking about. Note that this assumes that each move is unique to the Pokemon and doesn't yet exist in the database. If the same move could be associated with multiple Pokemon, you need to check whether each move already exists before creating it, because it won't be able to handle duplicates properly. All right, so implementing a view for the create operation. With our serializers ready, we can now implement a view to handle the post request, right? So this is views where exactly? in your application? Where's this views? And this is the exact application. Where's this going to be, this file? This gives it away here.
It has to be in the Pokemon app, right?
Pokemon app, views. Here, right? Yes, correct. All right, so let's handle this post request. We have the class all Pokemon, right? We have the get. We're going to get the Pokemon by name, right? It has the Pokemon serializer is going to respond with the serialized data on the get. Now let's look at the post. If it ends up being a post, it's going to do the Pokemon serializer, right? If serializer is valid, it's going to save it. You can obviously print it, and then you can return the response saying, hey, 201, new object created, right? And then what happens if that specific serializer is not valid? Let's say you try to create a move that already exists. What are you going to get?
400.
You're going to get a 400, right? Can you improve this code any? Just in general. This is pretty straightforward, and I don't think they made it any more complex than it needed to be just to kind of get the idea of how this works, right? But you could add logging to this to help you debug exactly what happens if this doesn't execute properly, especially specifically this line, right? Between serializer is valid, right, and a 400, a lot could be logged here. Make sense? If it just returns this, right, it's not that informative, but you can add logging in here, right? You can add a try catch or try except, sorry, in Python, right? To make this a little bit more robust. Make sense? But again,
Yeah.
I think they just kept it clean just to kind of get the point across. All right, so this view class will automatically use our Pokemon serializer to handle. Oh, go ahead, Art.
Where the is valid part of that is telling us whether it exists or not. It's not telling us whether somebody put in like a a Pokemon that doesn't is not part of our database. So it's not like whether it exists or not. It's whether it's duplicated or not, correct?
Whether it exists or not.
Yeah, because right now we're the is valid to me seems kind of too generic. It seems like what I'm not understanding is that how is valid going to tell us whether it exists or not versus whether it's a valid move or valid Pokemon that
Exactly.
we're trying
Yeah.
to.
So again, you can improve this. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, right? This is awfully generic. You could definitely make this a little bit more robust, but I think they just did it just to kind of get the idea across. But yeah, a lot of errors can happen here. It's almost too broad. Make sense? Right? It
Yes,
could
yes,
be,
yes.
yeah, it could be exactly like you just said, right? It could be the right Pokemon, right? But a duplicate move or something.
Okay,
Make sense?
okay. So I know I'm not crazy.
Or even a property that's like spelled incorrectly, right? That would fail anyway. All right, so this view class will automatically use a Pokemon serializer to handle the post request. It will validate the data, call the create method to save the data to the database, and then return a JSON representation of the new Pokemon. All right, So what is this specific post request here in views doing? Is doing something that we didn't do yesterday with the serializer. This is actually doing what? If you give a new Pokemon a new move, you're effectively what?
You're creating a new Pokemon and a new move.
Yeah, exactly. Or you might just be creating a new move for an existing Pokemon. Make sense? Difference from yesterday, right? And knowing what's a simple query of existing data and what's actually creating objects in your database, super important. This post will create. But in order to create these nested objects, right, it needs to know the relationship between Pokemon and move. All right, where were we? Okay, we're here. Making a post request with nested data. Now that we have our serializer and view ready, let's understand how to make a post request with nested data. You can make this request using a tool like Postman or curl or DRF's browsable API interface. My biggest recommendation to you is try to learn using Postman. I think probably curl is overkill, but definitely learn how to do it in Postman. That's going to teach you a little bit more than trying to use the GUI. Obviously, at first, if you can't figure it out, use the GUI. And then once you understand that, try to make the same request via Postman. Make sense? We had that mistake with Cisco earlier where we didn't know to put no auth and then send the token via the authorization key value pair. That's not intuitive on Postman, honestly, right? But that's something if you use Postman regularly, you would have understood, right? That's a good example of that. Okay, yeah, so definitely you can use the GUI at first, but then definitely learn how to use it in Postman. Curl is a little overkill because it's too many parameters, but you can try that as well. So when creating a Pokemon along with its moves, our request would look like this. Content type application JSON. What do you notice when you're going to make a post request? What do you notice about all this? It's very
Hierarchical.
yeah, hierarchical, and it's just a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're sending a lot, so you're effectively sending a lot of data. So let me get my Postman. My thing isn't set up, but I'll go ahead and right. I'm sending this going in here. I'm making a post. Okay, so I'm making it to Pokemon, right? Content type. Where am I going here? Body. Is it content? Yep, content type, right? I'm going application JSON. You can tell I haven't used Postman for this, right? Recently, I'm fumbling through it, but there you go. So I'm sending content type, application JSON, and then the body, I'm going to send this, right? And I'm sending raw, boom, bring this down. And that's how it's sent. It's not going to work, obviously, because I haven't loaded it up. But that's how you're going to make a request. Could you do this all with a curl? You absolutely could figure out how to do that. And you can definitely do it that way. I would do it this way and just save it as a tab, much easier. But headers, content type, application JSON, body, send the whole thing. Hierarchical data, right? And that's going to make a post, right? And it's going to create these specific moves. All right. So here, in this example, you're creating Bulbasaur with a type Grass Poison. We're also creating the two moves, Vine Whip and Tackle. And you're associating them, obviously, with the Pokemon Bulbasaur, right? After sending this request, you should receive a response of 201, right, indicating that Pokemon was successfully created. The response body will contain a JSON representation of the new Pokemon, including all of its nested moves. So in conclusion, we have navigated through the complexities of creating instances of a model with nested fields in Django REST framework. We have learned how to design our serializers to accommodate multiple nested relationships and how to craft JSON payloads to communicate the nested data for our API, right? Look at Postman. If the moves had a type, right, and I wanted one more nesting in here, I could get away with that, right? This could easily be type, right? And this could be. Now here, you could create this. This is kind of a stretch challenge, right? But once you figure this out, you could easily go in there and be like, oh, what kind of, oh, actually, let me not do tackle. Let me do vine whip because this one lends itself to kind of what I'm going to describe here. You could add a type here, right? And that's kind of what we were doing. We had a type app yesterday, but this could be a type, and vine whip can potentially have multiple types. In the game, I'm messing all this up, not that it would matter. In the game, vine whip has two types. It's grass and it's poison, I believe. Right? You can continue to nest not only your serializers, but your objects as well. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, so going forward, you'll be able to handle multiple nested serializers, catering to an even wider array of use cases. Remember that the key is to understand the relationships in your specific scenario and then to tailor your serializers to create the method that suit those. We're going to talk about the challenge that we started yesterday here in just one second. But before we do that, I'm going to go to my Pokemon API. Let's do Charmander. Oh, I don't know why I did that. That's fine. Let me ping this. Did I mess up? Pokemon Charmander, that's what it was. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Pokemon Charmander. Is this not working? Anybody catch what I'm doing wrong? V2 Pokemon. Do you want me to use Pikachu?
Are you trying to do a post right now instead of a GIF?
Oh, thank you guys. There you go. Not going to do Pikachu. Charmander. All right, so here we go. Give me a second. I feel like I have to sneeze. All right, sorry if I have to sneeze. All right, so this is the Pokemon example, right? I just literally just pinged Charmander, and you're not going to be able to do this because do we have authority to make posts to the API, to the Pokemon API?
No.
No. Why not?
because we don't have the authentication or authorization to do so.
Yeah, it's a public available API that we don't have the credentials to make a post to it, right? We're just outside users, right? That would probably be reserved for whoever maintains the API, right? But if we did, right, and we wanted to make a change here to this move, right? Or actually, let's just give it another move. This is Charmander. Let's, for the sake of this, right, give it Fire Blast. How many moves does it have here?
Looks like two.
It has two. It has Blaze and it has Solar Power. Why does it have a grass move? I don't know. Who cares? But if we wanted to give it Fire Blast, we'd make a post, right? And we pass the query parameter Charmander, and we would pass what other information?
That's the
It
moves
has
that
it
you
right
wanted
there.
to.
If we wanted to give them, if we want to give them the move Fire Blast, what information would we have to send besides his name on a post request? It has it right there.
URL.
URL and URL name
in the
is
slot.
hidden and
Yeah.
which slot. So we just send all of this information to Charmander saying, hey, add this move to abilities, ability, name, Fire Blast, URL is hidden true, slot 2, slot 4, and make a post to it. So it updates this specific Pokemon's move set. Right? So that's the concept here. Obviously, we can't do it on the Pokemon API, right? But I just wanted to show you that you can do that to any API. Art, do you have a question?
Yes. So how would you know which fields needed to be included? Because I imagine if you include a field that doesn't exist, or you don't have one that it needs, it's going to error out. So you need to know when you make your post which fields are available. And I think we kind of did a workaround before, like if when we created a project and we went to the admin panel and we created something in the admin panel, then it would show us what fields were required. So that was kind of like I guess a cheap way of doing it. But I guess my question is like, how do you know what fields are going to be required and needed when you're making your post?
Who can answer that question?
Well, Art, there's a real easy way. So as you can see, Guillermo he just told you if you go to Postman, he just performed a GET request for the Pokemon, right? So you can either do an individual Pokemon or you can do all Pokemon, but either way, when you do that, it's going to give you your JSON format that you need to submit the post request for. So essentially, if he wanted to create a new ability, he could just copy just one ability and paste it in the post request for that Pokemon. So you got all
Okay.
your info right there. All you need to do is just change the values for it.
Okay. So that was kind of similar to what we were doing with the admin panel, right? So in this case, before you do a post, you need to do a get to know what you need to send.
Yes, or you can just look at your models. Your models are going to tell you exactly what those post requests
Mhm.
require.
Yeah.
So both will work.
Yeah. Or if you have your JSON, if you have your data in a JSON file already, you'll already know what exactly to send because your JSON data for your data dumps will basically be the same as well.
Yep. And for this specific for the cars database, you could just look at the init file, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what's in there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so let's talk about this challenge. This isn't the team challenge, but we're doing it individually. It's the Cars API team challenge. We went over it yesterday, right? But just as a recap, right? The main thing you're going to be doing two main things here. The first thing you're going to do is really just get the Cars database up and running. And this is just a simple clone, cd into the database, run the commands that it says, and it'll run and it'll load all the data for you. You can then exact into the specific database, run a select star from, cars or something, just validate that the data's in there and it works, right?
Yeah.
So now you have your database in a container running, you've exec into it, you know it works. Perfect. The only other part of this challenge, well, the only other two parts of this challenge is creating an API with full CRUD functionality. So that's really the big thing, creating an API, launching it in a container, right? And then ultimately connecting it to your database. That way, when I ping your cars API with Postman, I can do all four, and you can create 4 tabs, right? For your get, put, post, delete. That's what this challenge talks about. You can tackle it a multitude of different ways. How I would tackle it is getting the cars database up and running first. Then I personally would create your Docker Compose so it launches that database when I run Docker Compose upd. After that, I would get started with my API. I'd probably just get a simple get route up. Then I would add that to my Docker Compose, launch it, and make sure that that works. After that, I'd add the rest of the routes. That's how I would tackle it. But you're free to tackle it however you want. Just know that the crux to the Cars API challenge is really just creating the Cars API and connecting it to a database that you really don't have to do anything to. They give it to you. Make sense?
Yeah.
And that's just a continuation of what we did yesterday. I would imagine that before Saturday morning, just make your PR request to that specific branch, to this branch, how you normally do. Any questions about creating nested objects? Now, if you've already gotten nested models from yesterday to work once, I would move on to nested objects. If you finish with nested objects, continue with your cars challenge. Make sense?
Yeah.
All righty. So I'm going to pause the recording here. Oh. Stop share. Did I screw that up? No, I think I screwed that up. Did I stop sharing?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I just wanted to actually touch on something that I should have mentioned yesterday and I didn't. That I was talking with Nicole, and she brought up a really good point. If you start doing all the models, it starts to become kind of this big project. And I wanted you to do it individually. So if you read my messages in the Slack channel, I want you just to start with car. And I wanted to show you an example of what this ultimately looks like. When this is finished, can everyone see my my Postman?
Yep.
Yes.
So ultimately, you should be able to test it like this. I literally just added a couple of these just now. So I have 7. I'm going to get my 7 models. And I know I have Tesla in here a bunch of times. I guess I'm not a car guy because I couldn't think of any other names. So there you go. 7 elements, right? I can get it. Boom. I could post a new model. This is, I don't know anything about cars. Mini Cooper. I don't even know if that's a brand. Mini Cooper model small, whatever. right? I'm going to post it. You can tell I'm not a car guy, right? I'm going to post it, and then this should give me return ID 8, right? So if I
Mhm.
actually go back to my post and I run another get, there you go, Mini Cooper model small, right? Same thing with the put. I can update ID 7. Let me update ID 8 to Toyota RAV4. So this should return ID 8 Toyota RAV4. Check the ID is going to change because now this is going to become 8. There you go. So this is what I return. And if I go back to my get and I run it again, ID 8 should be a Toyota RAV4. And it is, right? And then my delete. So all my functionality works. Now I want to show you something super important. Um, this is my code right here. What do you notice about my models within cars? I only did what? If you compare it to the database from your assignment,
Oh,
uh,
you use all the
Uh,
fields.
yeah, what classes am I missing?
Uh, just
oh, let's see.
embodied.
Yeah.
What classes am I missing? This is what it should be.
Yeah. You're missing out on registration. Let's see
I'm
what
missing all of them. What's the other one I have?
you got. I don't, let's go back. You got the make, model, and year.
I got car. This
Oh,
is how,
you're
that's
talking about
it.
the models. Okay.
Yeah, I only have one.
Mhm.
Notice how I implemented all my routes, right? All my routes, but I only have admin and my API only has my car URLs. I only implemented one model and I implemented just 2 cars initially to make sure that my Docker Compose works, that my API can connect to my Dockerized database, that all of that is working like it should, right? Now that I've got all this working, I can simply just go into models and then add what? Class app user, class, what was it? User profile, class advertisement. And I can work on them one by one. Now that I know that my setup for my entire backend is complete and it works. And the elements, the components are communicating with each other effectively, right?
Yeah.
Then I can just simply make migrations, migrate, right? Or you can do what I do, destroy everything and just rebuild everything. And if you have one of those handy scripts, that would help here. But this is ultimately what it should look like. And if you haven't gotten this far, that's okay. Just start with car. Just start with car, get everything to work. If you can get that to work by the end of today or maybe even tomorrow, you're still in good shape. Because that's ultimately the crux of this. Make sense?
Yeah.
All righty. I can stop sharing. Where are we as a whole? Just individually, everyone chime in to where exactly are you?
I'm done.
You finished all of it?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get back to you, Cisco. Thank you.
All right.
Never mind. Now I showed you just to do car. I didn't know you were done. I guess that was a stupid thing to show you then.
Well,
All right.
no, you showed me. So that's I actually compartmentalize everything. I broke all of the models down into their own folders and everything as well, which,
That's almost overkill, but if that helped you, that
yeah,
works.
yeah, it was. And I also noticed, and we'll discuss it later when you dive a little bit more into it. But yeah, I actually did have to change the the init SQL form, just to get it to. So, and I noticed now when you show me that, actually, if I had put it in all in one folder, I probably would not have had to change the init SQL, because the Django automatically appends the folder name, and the mod, so yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, you learned how to do it though, so that's good. All right. Where are you specifically?
Adam and I were actually working together, and we just finished up yesterday's exercise, so we're going to start on today's, and then we haven't touched cars yet.
That was models, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. Nicole?
I am working on getting the URLs to work. For some reason, it doesn't like my include right now, and I can't figure out why.
For cars?
Yeah, so I have the path, and it's like API cars, comma include, and it's telling me that include is not defined, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Did you import it along with path? If you just add it to comma path, comma
Yeah.
include, it should be in that same
Django.urls, import path, comma, include.
yeah.
Oh, yep, missing it up there. Thank you.
Mhm.
I had the path, I didn't have include. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that
Hmm.
kept me from going down a rabbit hole for like 20 minutes because I set up the cars model and then the cars app, and then I made a model app for like the model based on like the schema. And so I have those in there. I have like 5 cars and 5 models, and then I was just trying to get the paths all set up. So that's where I am.
Good stuff. Awesome. All right, just the last thing that I kind of want to go over, just Cisco, if you can just walk us and give us just a broad overview of how you completed this task. Very broad. It doesn't, you don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but I'd like for you to show kind of your thought process, how you set this up. Because
Oh,
you actually finished pretty
I
quickly.
I just deleted everything.
You deleted everything.
I was just kidding. I was just kidding.
Oh,
Well,
just broad strokes.
yeah. See my mess here. Um, what I initially did, I started just using this init SQL to break down my models and everything, and I just went down the row and created them one by one, tested them out, made sure they worked. So, yeah, so the app, I put it on the side. The app, and I kind of showed you guys this yesterday. Advertisements, I just basically followed along with the SQL. Um, Figured out how to create the foreign key, to connect the one to many and everything for those.
Can you show us where you imported all your models? I'm interested how you did this.
Yes. So through trial and error by testing them, I kept the SQL, uh, the init SQL. I did have to change. What I noticed for myself when I tried to use it as cars, it wasn't connecting with my API when I would go into it. I was like, why is it not showing up? It's there, it's not showing up. So I went in my Docker Compose and I noticed that, I had to get this Postgres DB to match. Um I had to get the project settings
To
uh
match.
to match, the DB here to match as
Hmm.
well. And so I just made sure all of those matched to be able to actually sync up. I commented out the create database, and instead of having it create the database here, I believe it was conflicting with the one that the Docker Compose actually creates somehow. I don't know, but I realized I needed to comment that out, and I actually had to uh, create my run script. Where is it at here? So I just put all my steps kind of like, I went through everything and just, deleted my migrations, did the compose D up, uh, did the Python manage make migrations, and you have to make sure you put them whatever models is depending on another model. Um, and I just kind of went with I just kind of walked down this where is it at here? So wherever your models are depending on each other. So I started with the user profile first because I just walked down the path. I made the migrations for user profile, the user or app user, to the advertisements, to the car, to the car model.
Why did you have to do it that way?
Because it will complain that the fields are not created yet. If a field within the model is depending on a model before it, the Django will throw an error.
Yeah, it's referencing something that doesn't exist yet.
Right.
Keep going.
And that's what I did there. And then I made the migrations, and then I ran this Docker CP copy to the temp folder for the init SQL. And
Why are all the sleep commands?
just to give it time to finish running, make sure they, I wasn't sure at first, but I noticed it doesn't take very long for these. But just to be, just be on the safe side, I wanted to make sure the commands finish their process before I actually tried to run another command.
Really important, sleep just waits for something to bootstrap. So it's actually super useful, right? Because it's not going to be automatic, right? Even when you launch an EC2, it's going to take a couple of seconds, right? So typically people will sleep between important commands. Keep going, Cisco.
And I also noticed that the runner, so there was it was labeled runner in the example, right? So I noticed that I had to change this here and with Docker PS and find out what the actual database name was and replace it in order to get it to run in the proper run the proper container and then connect to the proper database, which as you can see here, initially it's cars, but since I made the change, it's cars DB now, and everything just went where it was supposed to go. Once I copied that init SQL in there, I just ran this. I ran the script to run it again, or run the script. And once it did that, everything just populated and I got it up and running, and I have all of my Postman requests saved here where you can see, all of the data. And then I also have, you see my handy dandy. Oh, where is that? Not there. I just lost it.
What are you trying to show us?
Just the API itself from the local host. So, but yeah, there it is. So you see everything there as well for all your cars and users and so on and so forth. But yeah,
Good.
that's basically
That's
what I did.
awesome.
Yeah. It was a lot of work.
Cisco, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I noticed in your run command, it looked like you originally loaded it through fixtures and then you got it to import just through the init.
Right. So I initially started with fixtures, but initially that's the way I started it off, but I still realized that the data just wasn't connecting with the API. I wasn't getting anything. My fixtures was creating. I just believe I was creating two different databases. One database was empty, and one database had data in it. So, and it was because of the the cars, the name designation, right? So in your Docker compose and settings and all that stuff, you just had to get everything to match up.
I think there's a cars table too, so I don't think that helped either.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing I noticed. Like I was in this example, I noticed that it asked us to start or create a cars DB, which was different from the cars in the init SQL. So I'm like, wait a minute. How many different databases are we creating here? So yeah, I that's it was just trial and error, and that took the longest, is trying to get my data to show up. You know, I had everything done, but I couldn't figure out what was going on with the data. Like, where's it at?
So Cisco ended up adjusting his starting script and everything after you got the name of the database that was given to you. But you could have gone in there and also edited that database,
Right,
right? But most
right,
people didn't. Most people did it the way we did. We just cloned it, we launched it, right?
right.
And then you populated it with the SQL. You didn't necessarily need to populate it. Now, when you populate it, you have all the data in your database, and you could have ran that way, and you did a really good job troubleshooting. But sometimes that's a lot, right?
Mhm.
I actually didn't populate my database. What I showed you, I didn't populate it with the init file at all. I just manually inserted 2 cards because I knew I was only going to build out this model, right? But after I got everything to work, I could have gone back in, repopulated, right, my database, made some changes, and added the rest of the models and the views.
Yeah.
Another way to do it. I mean, a much longer way to do it, right? But if it seems like almost too intractable for you, you're more than welcome just to leave the database empty, insert 1 car, right? Get it all to work. Because if you can't get that to work, you're probably not going to get the big one to work.
Right.
Make sense? It's just too complicated. Too much data, too many paths.
Right. And let me show you this too as well. I actually had to change the table names as well to match up. So that was another part. Initially this was like app. It was app user. It was something like that, right? So, and I had to, yeah, in order to get it to match up with my models, I had to change those names.
You guys know what's happening here, right? It's like when people created the lessons, they just used different namings conventions, and now they're asking you to tie 2 components together, and obviously the naming doesn't match.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? That's what's happening. Like
Uh,
whoever created it, like even if it was the same person that created it, created it on different days, you forgot what the naming convention was, whatever, you just wrote the lesson. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because that's going to happen to you all the time on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're going to ask you to implement a new feature, and maybe you have an SOP of naming convention, right? Or you incorporated some different functionality that has a certain way of writing your code with another piece, and now you have to go in there and streamline it or get it to mesh together,
Yeah.
right?
Cisco, I have another question.
What's that?
One, can you drop that script with the commands that loaded your init? Because I was messing with that forever, and I actually ended up just throwing the um like the insert into chat and say, hey, turn this into a JSON for me. So I could put it in the fixtures to load it up.
Now, which one would you, which one would, which
The
one
one
did
where
you
you
like?
the one you were explaining that you started that like start script thing where you
The
use
long one.
Oh, the long one.
and
Okay.
because I was like I was actually trying to figure out how to load my init right into Django and I was confusing myself, so I went back to the way that I knew how to do it with the fixtures. So I converted it into JSON. And
Mm-hmm.
so at that point, like you said, I wasn't attaching the database. I was essentially making a new one.
I got you. I got
But the other question I had is because you used the init file and you changed all the names, did you also create all the models and stuff too, or were you just going off that init file?
Oh yeah. Well, well, I created the models for each app, right? I
Okay.
created the models, the serializers, and all that stuff. But once I created the models and I just ran the init SQL, it just all the data that was in that original init file is coming from there. I didn't create any data by hand. So I used the data that was existing in there.
So
I
you
just had
you created the models off of the tables in the init file, and then you just changed the init file so it could import into your models.
essentially, yeah.
Okay. Nope,
Yeah.
that was something I was sitting here spinning my wheels on for a while, and then I was like, damn, he figured it out before me. It's like, but also, I've been fighting a
with this name because from an architectural point of view, a view is often associated with something that the user
Where
sees.
is that?
I don't
I
know.
knew it's called
it's a
temp.
J that I was
Later
watching
in
to
the
Oh, no worries. No worries.
I thought somebody had snuck into our session.
Yeah.
No, I try to find like the parts that I like look up like Django tutorial for like creating the APIs just to go over that like one spot and like
Hmm.
watch it in different videos um to try to go back over what we did in the lessons, but I had it up trying to help me figure out this stupid thing and then I gave up on it and I guess I hit space and it turned on.
Yeah, yeah.
No worries. Ultimately, remember that if this was one cohesive lesson, right, all the naming convention would match up. But we just pull the database from cars DB because you had already done it, right? And we're like, hey, add an API to it, which is a great exercise, right? That's going to happen a lot of the times, especially when you add routes to existing APIs on the job. You might do a little of that. You might do a little GraphQL. Um, so good practice. All righty. And see if I think I'm good. Where'd we end up?
So I got my get request to work. Um, I'm working on delete, but because for my get I just did get all, I am I have delete working, but it says delete all.
As opposed
So
to an
I
individual
have
one.
been troubleshooting getting the um getting that essentially figured out. But I have get and delete and I started there because I did the same model as the cars ones to like do an update. I have a lot of fields.
Yeah, those are the easiest.
So I figured I'd get and delete going first, and then go from there. But like I said, I have it delete works, it just wants to delete everything. So
Yep.
I'm working on that. I added in the ID, so it's like def delete self request ID. And I have it trying to pull by the primary key, but it's not liking me right now. But I'll figure it out.
Good. It seems like you're on the right track. You should be able to wrap it up. Cisco finish. Art, Adam.
Yeah, we started up cars, got the database up and running, and we are just building up the project right now.
The API, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I would do exactly what I did. I just built out the car model and see if you can follow the flow right through. That's what I would do. And if ultimately that's the only thing you can figure out by like end of day Friday, I would just push that, honestly. Um, as you guys probably read the message that I posted on the thing. Remember, your assessment will be Saturday, so I'll release it probably lunchtime-ish. So you have the rest of the afternoon to complete it, and hopefully it doesn't take up too much of your weekend. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, the assessment's on Django, right?
Yes. Give me 1 second, actually. Let me look at it right now and make sure I didn't lie to you. Give me 1 second here. I have this like super mega uh, protected. Give me a second. Stand by. Why is this not doing anything?
What is the assessment on?
I'm pretty sure it's Django, but I'm trying to open it. I don't even
I thought we had a whole nother week of Jenga.
no assessment I verified is Saturday.
Okay.
Okay, how about this? I am gonna pull it up right after this and post exactly the criteria right here in the Hotel Evening and Weekend channel. It's given me some annoying stuff with the permissions, and I suppose I should figure that out before trying to release it Saturday. That makes sense?
Yeah. Are you
Perfect.
recording? You're not recording
Uh,
right now.